I think that unfortunately that doesn't exist as much as it did before because we're social creatures, right?
Yeah.
And the society, and we talked about this last time, the society that we live in, the social aspect of it is being cut out. With technology, we've become antisocial with the way that the corporations operate because they're so greedy that they want us to be hooked on consumerism. So we're constantly just buying. That's all we want. Buy, look at me, check me out. Buy, look at me, check me out. That's all it is, right?
I don't know the last day that I didn't spend any money.
Every day you are, because
Something, even if it's $2,
whatever it may be, and it's not necessarily stuff that you need. It's always wants. And what they've done now, the corporations, they've made sure that that's instantaneous. So literally, you can order something today on Amazon, and you'll get it tomorrow morning at your fucking door. That's insane.
You don't even have to go shopping.
No. And I'm talking about, it could be a fucking home stereo. Like, I'm not talking about like, like a battery, whatever. Like you can order.
You can order that on Uber Eats now on Walmart.
There you go.
I'm not even kidding. You can order office furniture.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can actually get the same day or next day.
No,
You can get your weed delivered to your door.
So now if you've got all these things in place, socializing is out the door, right? Because we only end up just socializing with the same circle, close family and friends. But outside of that, we don't. Like today when I got up and I left the house, I was talking to a friend of mine on the phone, and this individual volunteers, right? And they've volunteered before, like, when it comes to battered women, or, when people have depression and so on. And I was like, days like today, imagine people who are suffering with depression and they spent Christmas alone. Then the following days, because they're not working right now, right? So those people have better coping mechanisms because now they work. So when you're at work, they're working full time. They spend more time awake than they're, at work than they're at home. Now these people, because the next 10 days they're going to be at home, every single day has been fucking gloomy and depressing as shit. We don't notice as much because we're busy, right? We interact with our family, our kids, our friends, whatever. But someone who's alone, like really, really alone, they spend Christmas alone, which is depressing. Now every single day is dark and gloomy. Like
days hit them harder than
you can't even tell if it's 12 o'clock or 2 o'clock or 6 o'clock when you look out the window. Like in the morning, it was depressing as shit. It was like that yesterday. It was so foggy yesterday. So imagine those people. Like, what is they're out? Drugs, alcohol, self-abuse. They cut themselves or shit, whatever. What are they doing? What else can they do? Right? There's no resources out there to help them.
For love in all the wrong places.
Even that. I mean, if they get rejected, it's even worse. So they're not, the whole part about socializing has just died out. It's not, it really isn't there like it used to be before.
Oh, no, I agree with that.
So does anybody have anything to add to this before we move on to the next topic about when it comes to this thing about assisted suicides and things like that? No? So to kind of sum things up, I believe that in March, whatever the government decides, we're not going to really have, it's not as if we're voting on it.
Bill C7.
Yeah. So, I mean, if there's a way for people to go on there and say something to their local MP or whatever, I advise them to. I also feel that whatever decision the government's going to make, it's going to be a disaster when it comes to them managing it.
Oh, is it?
Like who is going to be the individual?
Well, you know what? What I forgot to
say
say actually is what's kind of what I found even freakier was if you do get approved for it, whether it's now or with mental illness, did you know you don't even need a healthcare practitioner to administer it yourself? You just need just one there to watch it. You can self-administer whatever they give you, but you have to arrange for a healthcare practitioner to be there. But they do not have to administer it. You can,
God.
You can administer it yourself.
I'd love to be able to find out how much money that practitioner gets paid.
But
this is what confuses me. I thought suicide
was assisted.
I thought that like, say I go and try to kill myself, can't I get myself in trouble if I try? No,
they revised the criminal code in 2015 so that people who do try to kill themselves, it won't be considered a loss or like a crime, so that they don't get charged for it.
Yeah, but even if you do try to kill yourself, it's not. If you're trying to kill yourself, it's not a crime.
I thought
Like
that,
they might administer you into like like a
I
hospital.
thought you're like I
That's
thought
like
that
China.
if you try to commit suicide so many
South Korea,
times that like
China.
You'll get
you in
admitted. You'll
trouble.
get admitted into a hospital.
okay.
You're under 24 an hour watch. I believe that. Like if you're a danger to yourself, like they're not going to put you in jail. I think that you're going to go into like a medical
Maybe that's what they should start doing.
institution.
Lock people up for trying to kill
They do
themselves.
that
Well,
in
they did that to Jeff Epstein, and then they said he killed himself, which I don't believe. Like
I
he
don't
fucking
either.
hung himself. Give me
He's
a
on
break.
an island somewhere.
No, he's dead. I believe he's dead. He was murdered by the
That would
people
make sense.
who used to go to his island
Who done
and
it?
who banging young innocent girls and raping them, whatever.
That would
And a
make
lot of those are political leaders of
And we
the
might
US,
find out who
and
they are in January now.
I highly doubt
The list
that's
already
ever
got
gonna
released.
happen.
The
No,
list
they
already
said
got.
it's getting released.
No, but
in
the
January.
list that got released just talks about people who went to his island.
Yeah.
Like we already know Donald
Those are the
Trump went
actual
there, the
people.
Clintons went
Jim
there.
Carrey.
Yeah, and also you have people like what's his name, that Prince Andrew. Some of these people actually went there, but they're really the people who are extremely powerful. And when I say powerful, I'm talking about not only just money, but they have the contacts and connections. You think they're ever going to be, had to go to trial and to talk about what they did or didn't? That's not going to happen. So moving on from talking about this, I know that we're talking about some depressing shit here, but I think that hopefully if some people are watching this, I know that there are suicide helplines, right? Does anyone know what the number is for the suicide helpline? So we're going to get Ryan to put the number here on the bottom.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
depends on your
For-
area.
Yeah, I think that there's a toll-free one for Canada, and I think it's very important for that to be there. Or
There's
someone,
also chat rooms that you can just do if you don't want to talk on the phone.
Yep.
Yeah,
and
and-
there's a great new website called letstalkaboutit.com.
yeah, there's stuff also for kids who are suffering, and I've seen
Tangerine walk-in clinic.
Yeah. So these are all
Take my kid
these are all great resources. I mean, I think that pretty much everybody has a cell phone, right? Most people do. So whether you can go into a chat room or whether you can call someone, there are. I mean, I'm not saying our government is completely useless. They do great things, and there are things in place. But unfortunately, I just don't feel that they're promoted enough, and the message isn't out there as enough. So I think there are definitely resources out there where, if you are feeling suicidal or if you're depressed or if you know someone who is, definitely call the number.
I was gonna say that, like, if you're feeling suicidal, though, it doesn't cross your mind at all to actually want to dial in all those numbers and talk to somebody. That's not a thought that goes through your mind. So I just
can
don't
be.
understand how
I think
these
it
will
can
help.
be.
It can be.
I think
Maybe for
But-
some.
Yeah.
I know some other people that it wouldn't be helpful in that.
But I mean,
kind of-
so are you telling me that there's some people who right off the bat they're too far gone?
yeah.
You don't think they go through stages like they first think about it?
No, because sometimes the anger consumes you to the point where the last thing you're thinking of is
Yeah.
the phone or a number.
No, but aren't some of those people? Did they already have other triggers prior to, where they've? That's what I'm trying to say. Like you kind of know you're leading up to this feeling.
Yeah, but I feel like some people don't go with the triggers, and when the trigger stage is when you should be calling.
hmm
But then once you get past the trigger stage, then it's too late.
And during those trigger stages, you don't think that you're actually capable to do something like that.
Yeah.
You think you're strong enough to be like, I'm not stupid enough to do something like that. I don't have the balls to do it. And then when you're actually in that last moment, like, I just don't see those lines or websites or chats really being helpful. And I'm not trying to be a negative Nelly about it, but
You are.
I am.
It's
I think she's
I-
being. I think she's being a
Unfortunate.
realistic.
Yeah, she's being realistic.
Realistic.
I am a
Unfortunate.
realist.
You know what? I think I agree with what you're saying,
You are a
But-
realistic.
but I will say that I still do feel that those resources are extremely helpful because when it comes to suicide, a lot of the youth suffer with that. They contemplate it, they won't follow through with it, but then that voice starts to grow stronger. And whether it has to do with social media, whether it has to do with the way their parents are treating them, whether it has to do with some trauma that they've gone through, that if at an early age, when they are experiencing these negative thoughts and they're thinking about suicide, and they actually are coherent enough to actually give this line a call and actually speak to somebody, that actually can kind of become their lifeline. Because whenever they feel that way, they know they can call, and
a safe space.
I know that they can ask for the same person.
Mhm.
What
They
if
can-
their mind is thinking that, okay, great, that line is there to help, but do they actually care? And these people working for this company actually cares, but in a suicidal mind,
Keep in mind, a lot of the people who do this also volunteer.
Yeah.
So they actually really do care.
There's people in the world that, how do I explain this? They think, okay, maybe they care, but they don't care. Like,
I don't think that the people who work for these lines, I mean, they're obviously interviewed and
They're
pre-qualified.
compassionate,
right?
honestly.
Extremely.
They are.
And then what happens is that individual actually kind of builds a relationship with this person. And
I get what you're saying.
Thank
You're
you.
trying to say that at that mindset, that person who should be calling is thinking, why am I going to call them? Because they don't care about what's going on in my life. That's what it is, really. You're not going to think.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I do. But then
That's the shitty
again,
thing.
there are, I get that. So again, you know, the crazy, it's always a double-edged sword. You've got some people who
what do you do with those people?
you can just keep trying.
That's a
That's all you
terrible
can
answer,
do.
in my
No.
opinion.
Honestly,
No,
it-
there's
it's
nothing
the
else you
only
can
thing
do.
You can do.
What else can
I
you do?
stopped trying
There's no,
and I lost my dad to suicide as soon as I stopped trying.
yeah, there's
literally.
no on and off switch here. You can only keep
Sorry to
trying.
hear that.
It's part
Oh, sorry to hear that, but yeah,
I
that's,
know. It's just like we tried and tried, but then it's like you finally give up because you're like, if you're gonna keep trying to kill yourself, you got, you can't keep
let-
stressing yourself
you
out.
can't
living in
handcuff
fear
them and
of-
strap them down,
and you
right?
can't
I mean,
keep being in fear of when they're gonna do it or how they're gonna do it, and then eventually it happens. And that's
so
the sad thing.
and when I said that you have to keep trying, that's not a cop out. That's like a real thing. You have to keep trying. So if you have an individual that is extremely depressed and they're suicidal and they're obviously if they have a family and they're a burden on the family and the family's trying the best that they can, and this individual is not willing to get any help, they're not willing to go to therapy, they're not willing to go on any medication, they're not willing to take any antidepressants, whatever. They're not willing to communicate on a daily basis with their mom or their dad, like, check in with me. I want to make sure you're okay. And they continue going back to the same thing they rely upon, which is drugs or alcohol or sex or whatever, or self-abuse. What else can the family do?
Call the police on them.
If they call the police, there's a good chance if it's, depending on the, what kind of a fucking cop shows up, he's going to shoot them. So that happens very often. Someone who's mentally
Yeah,
ill,
that's true.
they get shot.
That's
So
the question I'm asking,
now the
too.
Canadian government's kind of changing that. Like, we're going to have a different sort of line where if an individual is suffering with a mental condition, when they call 911, what they should be sending is a counselor or a shrink or a doctor.
This is one thing that I do. This is what I think when it comes to the police, because police are useless. A lot of the police are useless, especially in Brampton, fucking useless. But when it comes to mental health, we're not going to get into that. Mental health, I feel like when it's something like that, they need to have somebody who comes as like a social worker, somebody who can come and understand someone who is mentally unstable. Because even the other night, I got pulled over, situation happened right outside of my house. I started going off because I had no reason to be getting pulled
I had
over.
to scream at the police officers. I'm like, she has borderline personality disorder. I'm like, she may look
Because
drunk
this guy-
right now because she's
I
irate.
didn't even look drunk. I just looked like a pissed off person that you had police lights in my driveway for absolutely no
I
reason.
thought she was
Like,
going to attack them.
but I wasn't, because I was just angry. But the thing is, me in a situation like that, screaming at a police officer, I'm a little white person. They don't care. If it was a black person doing that, it might not have gone
anybody
the same way, right?
of color, not just black, they would
anybody of
fucking
color,
probably
exactly.
shoot them.
But that's what I'm saying. Especially in Brampton, they're gonna get shot. Something bad is gonna happen. Whereas me doing it, they're not understanding either. So if it wasn't for Cheyenne being like, she's borderline personality, this, da, 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 they wouldn't know anything.
I was
right? So, like,
advocating the shit.
somebody should always kind of be there when it comes to the police, because police aren't trained in that. They don't know how to deal with somebody who's dealing with mental health. That's not their.
Yeah,
that's
no,
not their
you
division.
know,
it's beyond what they can deal with. Like,
The police basically focuses on aggression.
Yeah.
So they're going to be very aggressive and assertive. And now, because the individual is not complying, then they start getting a little bit physical, and now it's resisting arrest and throwing the fucking guy to the ground, and the guy's resisting.
and it could have all
Then they
been
taser
avoided,
him,
literally.
and the amount of money that we spend on the police force, that's a whole other podcast. Fucking ridiculous. It will cost them a fraction of that if, when we get some of these distressing calls from a mother saying, my son's having an episode, you send a social worker, you send a therapist or a counselor, that will be a fraction of the cost of sending 2 cop cars over there.
Yeah.
And especially after the fact, if something horrible happens, now the city gets sued and they have to pay a $5 million fucking settlement.
And not to mention
Right.
when the person who's high rate or they're going through something, when they see a cop car with lights flashing pull
Because
up,
we've even going more.
oh my God.
Yeah, the
it's
rage.
it's gonna
Yeah.
rage you to a point where there's of no
Well,
return.
especially if your mom called the cops. Now you're like, what the fuck? I'm having an episode, and you call the fucking cops, mom. I'm gonna
I've been
fucking
there
show
too.
you, right? Like, so have you girls seen the movie Basketball Diaries?
Yeah.
With Leonardo DiCaprio, where he has that meltdown when he's
Yeah,
knocking the
yeah,
door,
yeah.
calling his mom a fucking bitch
Yeah.
because he wants $20 for heroin.
But that's
What
because
a scene!
the drugs.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
one of the best movies.
Oh
Have you
my
ever seen it?
god, you guys never seen that?
No.
I've seen
That's-
that scene.
That
but
was
I haven't
that
seen
was
the film.
DiCaprio's breakthrough movie.
Yeah,
That's
If you
I fell in
watch
love
that,
with him
you're
when I
gonna
was a
cry.
child.
it's a very
And he was
good
a drug
scene.
addict.
Yeah, you're gonna cry for sure. But the mom didn't call the cops. She could have called the cops on him.
Yeah.
He was banging on the door, calling her a whore and a this and a that.
Because she knew that
If she gave him money, right, and if she called the cops,
it could have got worse.
he would have been shot. He would have gotten killed because he was in a fit of rage. Right, he was like fucking just having a like a meltdown. Right, he was jonesing for his fix, and his mom was like, "I'm done. I'm not giving you no more money." And she'd locked the door, and he was banging, "You're a fucking whore, you bitch!" And he's freaking out, and the mom was crying behind the door. And then eventually, he started crying as well. Then eventually, he left or whatever. But that in real life, if that's happening, and now the mother, because she loves the child, that I should call 911. Right? She thinks that, okay, my son is a heroin addict. He's having an episode. He comes by my house all the time. I'm not giving any more money, and he's freaking out. The cops are gonna fucking show up. Like fucking all guns blazing.
But
the
a
cops are
heroin
gonna
addict-
show up and say, "Hey
Shoot
man,
him, shoot
listen,
him."
buddy. I know you're having a tough day. Like, you get the fuck away from that door right now. Get on your knees." The guy's gonna say, "Fuck you."
But here the thing is, a heroin addict and someone going through that, there is a chance that they could also be going through psychosis, and that's where I truly do believe you would need a police officer there. You shouldn't send a person like a social worker into a room with somebody with heroin-induced psychosis.
Well,
That's where the issue is. How do you know where the difference
So
is
then,
between psychosis and
the amount of money that our police force gobbles up, you have a fucking trained. You know, we have the SVU unit and we have the SWAT unit.
Yeah.
You have a trained fucking unit of cops who have been trained when it comes to people who've got mental conditions. Okay?
neurodivergent.
Yeah. So you have them where they know how to diffuse a
like
situation.
they look like they're ready for SWAT, but mentally they want to talk to you instead
Yeah.
of shoot you.
So, but
type of
they
thing.
can do both.
Yeah, they can do both.
if
Like a RoboCop.
if they need to be more aggressive, they can be,
Yeah.
but they know how to diffuse first, right? You know, when people are wanting to jump off a building and all that, you think they just send in cops? No, they send in negotiators who know how to talk.
Yeah,
They've been trained. That guy's still a cop,
exactly. Yeah,
but he's been trained. They've got specific guys for that. So same thing with this.
you need to put in more funding.
Why can't you just fucking a part of the college that they have, the police college that they go to? You can have some people, because there are people who are empathetic. I'm like, you know what? I want to be a cop, but I also want to be able to help in this area as well too. It's like having someone who's a cop who's also a paramedic. Okay, so now they've been given this set of tools, so when they arrive there, they can make a proper assessment and figure out how to diffuse the situation. Let's just get this person to calm down first. I cannot come in hard and aggressive and throw them in handcuffs. Because some of these people freak the fuck out. They put their knee on the back of their fucking neck. They can't breathe. They fucking die. You know, or they're epileptic or
But
whatever.
too, if
you know,
you're
like-
on the ground and you're freaking out and you're like, if somebody has their knee on my back and I'm getting squished, I'm going to continue to freak out because I can't breathe. So you're going to continue to struggle. The power struggle is there because the cop's going to want to be in power, but you just want to get the fuck up and breathe. So like you under.
and next thing you know, two other cops show up because they want to be in fucking power. They jump
Yeah.
on top as well too.
It's just,
And it's like, oh well, you know, buddy died. We don't know. It's not our problem. He was overreacting, and that's that. So I feel that, again, kind of getting back to what we're talking about. I feel that when people are suffering, and especially because the society that we live in, we know a lot of people are suffering with mental conditions. It's no longer this stigma thing about, oh no, everything's okay. No, people fucking know. You've got a ton of celebrities that are out there that have borderline, like Pete Davidson, so on. There's a bunch of, even some singers. I think what's her name? Swift is definitely fucking borderline.
Pretty much all.
Selena Gomez with bipolar.
What's that? The other one's name who now goes by they or did Demi
Lovato.
Yes.
Yeah, she's got BPD as well. So now that kind of stuff is coming out, right? So if we know, I don't know what the stats are, whether it's 1 in 4, 1 in 5 are suffering from some kind of mental disorder. I'm not when I say mental disorder, I'm not saying they're fucked in the head. They could be suffering with
Pretty fucked.
Well, no, I'm saying they could be suffering with depression,
yeah, no,
right?
that's true.
They could have PTSD, so they're still
I have
functional.
all of it.
Yeah, but then you've right, and
I'm a
even
big
when
bag, I'm a big bag. of surprises.
even when it comes to the spectrum of like someone who's got autism or even BPD, it depends on where you are in the spectrum. Some are high
might be there
functioning,
too.
some need heavy duty medication to even function, right?